What's the first thing that you should do if you think you might have a receding hairline? Well, I guess probably it's to Google that or put it into YouTube and find a video like this. That's probably actually the first thing. So really, what's the second thing you should do? According to me, Nick Shell, the head honcho of hair loss, I say the first thing you need to do after that is to ask your doctor or even whoever cuts your hair. Ask a professional, ask someone who can see you in person, who has knowledge on that. I think obviously doctors are good. They can point out and recognize what's truly male pattern baldness, as is whoever is cutting your hair. They see that all day long, and they're going to know what's truly male pattern baldness versus just maybe what is a maturing hairline. For example, and this happened for me when I was 17. I just didn't know it. I didn't know until I went back in pictures. But when I was 17, what happened was my temples started receding. You know, I used to have, my hairline went all the way right in here. Well, that started going back. And by the time I graduated high school, I had just turned 18. But even pictures leading up to that, as I turned 18 like a month before I graduated high school, that was already starting to go back a little bit. And then by the time I was 20, I was noticing, okay, this is Norwood 1. I didn't know what the name of it was, but I knew that I could see we were going back here. It wasn't that my hairline so much went up here, but I knew that looking sideways I could see that. And then by age 24, I could officially see I was Norwood 2 as I had the V shape. And yes, there is a difference between male pattern baldness versus just having a maturing hairline. And I think there's a lot of gray area on there. But I think what happens is, in the process of having what we'd call a juvenile hairline, which is what a lot of boys have. Now granted, some men still have that. It looks sort of unnatural. But when it's more of a rounded off hairline. And so the next step is it's going to start going up to where you've got it straight across. The next step is the temples will go back. The next step is that your hairline will actually start turning to a V, and then eventually that would turn into a peninsula, and then eventually the peninsula would detach because it's balding right here, and then you'd have a balding spot in the back, and to where the top starts going away into your bald. So that's the whole process of male pattern baldness. But I think what happens is a lot of guys, especially teenagers, they see the way their hairline's changing, and maybe even here, and think, okay, this is it. The fuse has been lit on this bomb, and it's all going to blow up very soon. And so if I could give you any encouragement on this, it would be, don't put too much thought into this right now. What you're going through may be completely normal. But I think the first thing you should do if you think you might have a receding hairline is to ask a professional that can see you in person, such as a doctor, obviously, or if nothing else, the person that cut your hair at Great Clips for $14. Because if nothing else, if it's someone cutting men's hair all day long, they're going to know what to look for, especially any kind of signs of actually thinning. You know, and that's something that I personally have learned. Having a hairline that's changing is one thing, but the moment you can start seeing your scalp through your hair, and it's actually getting thinner, that's a whole different story, and that's more in the baldness. And I think there's a debate. I mean, there's going to be the whole Norwood scale. Am I Norwood 1, 2, or 3? But then there's also actual thinning that's going to occur. So you could have this perfect hairline, but have you can see through your whole scalp. Or you could even maybe be a Norwood 3 and have kind of a peninsula that goes back and is rounded, but then just no thinning. So for me personally, once I can start seeing my scalp through my hair, to me that's balding, no matter what the Norwood scale says. Now, I'm sure people have different ways to answer this question, but to me, how do I know I'm balding is when I can see my scalp through my hair, not just is my hairline changing. Because again, having your hairline change, completely normal. It's part of going into manhood. But just because your hairline changing does not mean you're balding. There's a difference between a receding hairline versus balding. And there's even a difference between just having a maturing hairline that's gone from when you were a boy as it's starting to go up. But as far as truly a receding hairline, perhaps we could say it's going to be a Norwood 2 to a Norwood 3. That's how I would define it. But the actual seeing your scalp, seeing the balding take place, that could happen at any Norwood scale. So I think really the question that you may be asking isn't, is my hairline receding? I think the real question to ask is, am I actually in the balding process? Because balding is a whole lot worse than just having a receding hairline. A receding hairline is not that big of a deal. Look at one of the most attractive men in American cinema, James Dean, and we could say, well, he had a receding hairline at age, he was 24 years old when he died. Okay, we could say he had a receding hairline. That's different than actually balding. So first thing you should do, ask a doctor, ask who cut your hair. But it's not so much, do you have a receding hairline? Don't get caught up in the receding hairline. Don't get caught up in the fact that your hairline's changing. That's part of growing into a man from a boy. The real fundamental question you really wanted to know is, have I begun the balding stage? Am I truly experiencing male pattern baldness, or is simply my hairline maturing a little bit compared to how it was when I was 7 years old? I'm Nick Shell. I am the head honcho of hair loss. But as far as me knowing whether you're balding, you got to go ask someone in person who deals with that for a living on a daily basis to truly get a good analysis. Thanks for being here.